2,000 miles and 11 time zones away from the United States. We're at the 4 hours of Abu Dhabi for round 4 and round 5 of the Asian Le Mans Series. I'm racing in the LMP2 class, but that's not the story. There's two racers here, George Kurtz and John Falb, who got their original start in racing in Radical. Since then, John has won 2 ELMS championships. George has won the 24 hours of Le Mans, the 12 hours of Sebring, the 6 hours of the Glen, and Petite Le Mans. Today, let's listen to their Radical journey.
My starting in Radical was critical to my racing career. It was really the first race car that I got into. I did some track days, I really liked it, and very quickly got the bug to buy a Radical. And I think when you look at what you get from a Radical versus maybe a traditional street car, it's just so much more. The car does more. And I think one of the big things that it did for me is to really teach me how to drive a high downforce car early in my racing career. So given what I do now in the P2 and some of the other cars, it was absolutely critical and a great first step for me. When I first started Radical racing, I didn't realize what it would lead to. It was just a fun thing to do and just wanted to get better at racing and kind of learn my craft. And then over time, I started to do different type of events, the US Championship in Radicals, and then I went to GT4, GT3, and P2, and really didn't have a clue when I first started that it would bring me to so many great tracks like Gas Marina here and other places around the globe. So I think from a starting perspective, it really was the foundational elements for me, and I didn't realize where it would bring me, but happy to be on the journey starting with Radicals. If you're just getting into Radical, I have 2 pieces of advice. One, you got to get out there and you got to just start driving. And for me, I think the best thing that you can do is get someone to actually help you. Get a coach, get an instructor to show you all the right things to do so that you start your Radical journey on the right foot. I did that with a guy named Jeff Schaefer. Really helped me in my driving early on. So doing something right from the beginning and not getting bad habits is critically important. And the second piece of advice is if you're going to start racing, just get out there and do it. There's never a better time to then just start. If you got the right coaching and the right training and you have a view of what you're supposed to do, you got to get out there and you got to just participate. There's really no substitute for racing. You can do all the simulator work, you can do all the track days, but until you get out with other drivers and you race, you're never going to hone your craft. So get great coaching and instruction, and get out there and start your first race and don't look back. My favorite Radical memory is racing with a guy named DC Doug, and we were racing side by side in Spring Mountain, and there was a little bit of contact and his hood actually folded up. There's some fiberglass folded up, and he kind of loosened his seatbelt a little bit, pushed it back down and kept racing, and it was just kind of a classic moment between 2 drivers that were having a good time. So I think when you look across all the things and places I've been with a Radical, there's probably too many places to say which one was the best, but that one stood out as just kind of a fun time in a Radical.
Well, Radical racing has been really the foundation of all of my car motorsport racing. I raced motorcycles, road race motorcycles early in my 20s, and I stopped racing and then, focused on my career and my family. And then when I moved to Las Vegas, I started going to Spring Mountain. I had a GT car, but Spring Mountain had so many Radicals that, it made the most sense to buy one and start racing. And so that's what really taught me about racing cars. I would go out every Friday with an instructor and just pound out laps. And then we would race once a month. Great group of guys, a lot of fun people to learn from. And then found some success at Spring Mountain doing that racing. And then the Radical USA Series, was kind of the logical next step. So I was racing at Spring Mountain and then racing really all over the country, flying out with my buddies, seeing new cities, learning new tracks, and just having a great time. So about 4 years of Radical racing. And then I started to add in some IMSA racing because I felt a lot more confident, understood, the dynamics of the car, and raced in the IMSA Light Series, won a couple of Masters championships there, did some racing in I stepped up to race in the European Le Mans Series in LMP3. So all of that prototype experience kind of built on itself. Ultimately won a championship in LMP3 and then moved on to LMP2. Again, all that experience giving me the confidence to be able to drive what I would say is the pinnacle of what a bronze driver can race, and ultimately leading to the 24 Hours of Le Mans. We won a Pro-Am championship in LMP2 and ELMS. We won the Pro-Am in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and yeah, it's just been a fantastic ride. And in fact, I still have my championship winning Radical at Spring Mountain. I get out there and drive it on occasion. You know, my sons drive it. I have 2 seats in it, so I love taking people for rides. They can't believe how fast it is. They can't believe the intensity, the open top car, you know, the wind in your hair. It's so much fun. And now I know that, you know, the new cars have progressed so much, I'm gonna have to get a new one. But I think I'll keep my old one as well because, you know, I love having the 2 seats. And I think for most people who are interested in getting into sports car racing, the best piece of advice I could give is to really think about Radical as a great option. Most people's mindset is, you know, going from a road car, you know, your Porsche or your Ferrari, into a GT3 version or a car like that, which is, it's not a great first race car. It's expensive. If you damage it, it's really expensive. It's harder to get parts for. You know, Radical programs, you know, around the world, for the most part, are arrive and drive. Anything you have an issue with, everybody's in the same car, so you're really being measured based on the driver ability. So it's the best way to advance. You're learning about downforce, you're learning about not having ABS braking, you're learning about not having traction control. So it's really a good way to get in at a relatively low cost, but also ultra competitive and faster than most GT3 programs out there today. Yeah, when I first stepped into Radicals, I had no idea where, you know, this adventure would take me. All I knew is that I was having fun and I really enjoyed racing. You know, I kind of took my time progressing, and I had no idea I would ever end up at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. It was certainly a dream. I didn't actually know that much about it, and so to be able to do it and now have done it 4 times, it's kind of unreal. But yeah, it all started with Radicals. So the first Radical race I did, I honestly don't remember where I started or where I finished. I certainly wasn't winning. It was somewhere at the back of the pack. And I was super nervous, you know, anxious, worried about the results, worried about making a mistake. But I mean, that's how you build, you know, that's how you learn. The more comfortable you are, the more confident you are, the faster you're gonna go, the safer you're gonna be. So my advice would be you have to start somewhere. And honestly, if you're just putting around at the back of the pack and, you know, happy to be there, the next thing you know, you're gonna be pushing, you know, a little bit harder and a little bit harder. So yeah, you have to start somewhere. So I would just say, you know, go for it. I have a lot of fantastic memories in Radicals. Really, the camaraderie of the friendship, the dinners, obviously the winning, spraying champagne, that's fantastic. But it's the relationships, you know, that have mattered most. You know, in fact, one memory that sticks out, which isn't a great memory, we were in Monticello and we had a heavy downpour. I actually crashed the car, crashed out of the race. My car's sitting, you know, next to the tire wall. And the next thing you know, George Kurtz comes along, crashes in the exact same spot, runs his car under my car. After the race, you know, it's the end of the season, we're all, you know, celebrating the championship winners. And, you know, I said to George, because his car was under my car, I said to George, "It's okay, buddy, I'm still on top." Not the nicest thing to say, but at the time it was pretty funny.